In this session, we're going to be turning benchmark data into instructional strategies. This can be for administrators, such as principals, or administrative tasks for educators. We're going to be using Gemini to synthesize complex data into actionable instructional strategies, and this aligns with the ISTE standards of using data to guide progress. So I know that administrators and educators benchmarks assessments are often seen as a powerful compass. We do this constantly, and we need to use that data to guide where we need to go. And we've moved past the era where we can just wait for one big test in the spring, such as provincial. Now we're constantly taking the pulse of our students with various tools or assessments to ensure everyone is staying on course. So why does this analysis matter so much? Well, benchmark analysis isn't just about color-coded spreadsheets. It's part of our early warning system. It tells us which students might be at risk, which students might need more instructional coaching, and where our professional development budget should actually be spent. So when done right, benchmark analysis moves the school or a classroom or student from being reactive to proactive as together, where we intervene when there's still time to impact student outcomes. However, the reality for most of us is that we have data fatigue. We might have a ton of students in our own classes, or 600 students or 1,000 students or more in our school as a principal, and creating these into different groupings or plans can feel overwhelming. So in this session, again, you'll use Gemini to synthesize some of this data to be able to look at creating actionable instructional strategies while saving you time. So as educators and administrators, our biggest productivity hurdle isn't the data, but the synthesis of it. We have the numbers, but turning those numbers into a strategic plan for the next staff meeting or whatever can take hours. So we're going to help use Gemini to help reduce this time investment and kind of manually cross-reference last year's state scores, or in this case, we're going to look at provincial scores, that you can use anonymized data into Gemini, and of course, whatever data source that you have, you can use in these examples, whether it's reading, writing, numeracy, and so on. So here's a quick demo, and we kind of are looking at a piece of data where we are cross-referencing this reading data on a sheet. And so I'll be showing you an example of a 7th grade winter reading benchmark data. So in this data, again, don't look at the numbers because it may not connect to the type of scoring you're used to, but the idea that we have 20 students here of different genders and ethnicities and different subgroups, whether ELL or a student with an IEP and exceptionality. There are different scores and some growth pieces, and then the proficiency level. So I'm going to download this onto my computer, or obviously you can just connect to it within your drive. And what we're going to be doing is using Gemini to help us with this task. And in the moment, what we're going to do is we're going to ask Gemini to analyze this table of 7th grade reading scores, summarize the average growth for the IEP subgroup versus the general ed population, and then suggest 2 specific literacy interventions for students in the below basic category. So this will kind of be our prompt as we go into Gemini. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to Gemini. I'm going to create a new chat at the top here. And it says, "Hi Bill, what's on your mind?" What we're going to do is first I'm going to find the attachment or link to Google Drive. You can upload files or add for Drive. In this case, I've just uploaded the files, and you can notice that I can use a PDF or just a spreadsheet. I'm going to use the PDF in this case, and I'm going to click on Open. And here is going to be my prompt that I just showed you on the previous screen. And I'm going to click Submit. So what I will use is that document, that PDF document of those reading scores. You can see how quickly it's jumped into some of these aspects. Now, when we click on here, it shows you where it's coming from. There's only one document, of course, and it's put it into 2 tables. It's decided to do that in its own way. Then suggests 2 specific literacy interventions for students in the below basic category. And then here's really what we wanted to kind of look at here. I'm highlighting it on the screen, is explicit advanced phonics and multisyllabic decoding. Okay, we know we need to look at that for a couple of students, and then what does it mean for fluency building? And now this data only had 20 points, but imagine it had 200, and we needed to identify certain groups or subgroups to be able to do it. So that would be one way. And I'm going to actually just click on here, and I'm going to upload the file, and it's going to be from the spreadsheet. I'm going to see if it's going to give me a different output here, just by bringing in a spreadsheet versus the PDF of the same information. So we'll see what it does. It's good that it's thinking, because that means it's digging into the document. There we go. So it has more tables as opposed to some. I do like the flow of this one better. It seems a little bit more realistic to what I would see. And of course, if I needed to, I could copy and paste, or I could open this. And you can see you can export to docs and so forth. There's lots of options that you can do with this data. So we can use this data for what we need to, or bring to a staff meeting or a planning meeting, depending on what our role is. So I do want you to take this option for you and be able to then bring it to your group and be able to dig into this sample data. So for your practice, there is a sample set of the data I just put here at tinyurl.com/AIeducator-benchmark data. This will give you this sheet right here, and you can choose to just add it to your drive or download it if you wanted to. So you're going to attach this the same way I did, and you're going to have a couple prompts. You could start with the original prompt that I did. You could pause it and you could rewind this and look at it. But you have two prompts here. Identify students who showed negative growth between fall and winter based on their proficiency level, draft 3 specific talking points I can use in a coaching conversation with their teacher to support a pivot in instruction. So you can imagine the role that I'm using here in supporting an educator, whether from an administrator or from a support role essentially. And then another prompt, so these are two different prompts. Look at record 12 and record 17. These students showed significant growth. Draft a celebratory email template I can send to their guardians that explains what this growth means for their student progress towards grade level. So this is what you're going to be working on, and I'll give you a few moments to that. So you're going to pause, and we will have this available for you in the benchmark data. Again, tinyurl.com/AIeducator-benchmark data, and we will go from there. So take a pause and join back in when you've had that ability to try to put an aspect of these prompts into your Gemini chat. Okay, welcome back. And so what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of model for you too. When I go back to my Gemini chat, I'm going to actually see if I can continuously, the chat, put in the first prompt about identifying those students who showed negatively between fall and winter, and see if it can give me anything in terms of the coaching conversation with their teacher to support a pivot in instruction. So again, entry point. So it's just, again, it's not going to be the be-all and end-all, but it will be able to help guide those conversations when they're in there. I wouldn't recommend just obviously copying and paste this into an email. This is just something to be able to support conversation at the human level between a staff member and a staff member in the best interest of the students. And then the last prompt that you were practicing on was the celebratory email template. So let's see what it brings up. And of course, we would look over this. We would make sure that it was personalized. We would make sure that we've reviewed it, the human in the center, as we go through. but a good start to be able to send an email, and so that the parent guardians receive something celebratory, not always in a negative way when things need a next step. Okay, so reflection. Well, obviously, based on the data, think of the sources that you have access to. Make sure that you can have it and make sure it's appropriate. This was anonymized data, being able to put it in there. So just think about those aspects. Think of the outputs that you receive, either as an educator or are provided to you from an administrator. And then see what you can do with it to be able to help guide you in your next steps, or even by groupings that will help you. So then once you're done this, you can absolutely jump in to our awesome Google AI Educator series environment, and you can get your badge for today. So if you clicked on, or you add into your URL, goo.gle/GES13, that will bring you to this page, and you can revisit the learning. But again, a lot of this instruction has been by us here, but of course, feel free to jump in and follow the steps, and then you can take your badge right here and when you're ready to go. And of course, we value your feedback. So there is the QR code here, the URL that you see on screen, as well as any of the registration points for accessing this. You will see the ability to give us feedback on the series or on the content.